Same.
All right, let's do it. Cool. Welcome. This is effective immediately. Welcome to episode 1 of our special that doesn't really have a name. Possibly inside the layoff studio, maybe the job seeker diaries. We're going to be interviewing folks about their job search and hopefully glean some interesting insights into their souls, maybe some tangible, useful strategies for the job seekers out there, and most deeply just connecting with each other. So I am pleased, honored to co-facilitate today with the highly impactful Krista Lane, the author of a recent blog post from TripleByte on all of our outplacement work. Krista, anything you'd like to say about yourself?
Hi, lovely to be here.
Hey.
Yeah, that's pretty much me. I'm in San Francisco. It's beautiful today. I've got my water and my Girl Scout cookies. I'm ready to go.
Awesome, delicious. We have Kevin has graciously agreed to be our first guest. So full disclosure, the three of us, we're all senior talent managers with TripleByte together. And I think I can speak for both of you when I say we fell in love with working together. And so this is part of our next adventure. And Kevin has agreed to be our guest this round, and he'll be interviewing later. Kevin, aka the coach, Landucci. Kevin is a master motivator, a relentless goal achiever, an athlete turned actor turned drummer. Kevin has a magical way of getting to the heart of the matter. Kevin, anything you'd like to say about yourself?
Thank you. Hi. I have my water here too. I left my Girl Scout cookies somewhere else, but I love tag-alongs, and I'm gonna keep my mask on. No, I'm ready. Thank you.
Great, awesome. And I think I will lift this glass, whether it's empty or not, every time I finish talking. That is how I go. With stress. That's how I remember to breathe. So here's the formula. We have a set series of questions that may or may not change as this series progresses. And we will hear from Kevin. Chris and I may add some insights, and then we'll do kind of a shared hodgepodge sign off at the end. So Kevin and Krista, are you ready?
I think so. As ready as we will be.
Cool. Here we go. I don't know if I'm ready, but we're just going to start. So Kevin, obviously the premise of all this is about your job search. And we're thinking kind of like about interviewing, getting ready for interviews, what that process looks like, any part in the sort of journey of the interview stage. How do you prepare?
Ooh, I usually have a doc for every company that I have. This is a tip from Miss Lane. Also, thank you very much. So yeah, I just have a doc where I have everything. Because at the beginning, I didn't used to do this, but in the last maybe 10 interviews that I've had or so, I have a document where I write proactively my answers to questions that they're either going to ask explicitly or implicitly. I have like the research that I'm going to do, the questions that I'm going to ask them, and then a space for me to put the questions that they asked me and my answers to them. So I prep basically all in this doc. And if I look back at the 10 or so interviews that I've had, my interviews have gotten better because I just look at everything in that doc. But yeah, maybe a half hour, maybe an hour before the call, I start looking through the LinkedIns for everybody and the job description and everything like that. And it all revolves around that doc.
What else do you do to prepare that's unrelated to like the data that you'll need in the interview? Like in a personal way?
Yeah, I find lately when I've been prepping in a personal way, it's actually been taking me out of it, funny enough. So sometimes I'll jump around. Sometimes I'll do some somatic stuff and like wiggle my body and like touch my shoulders and like, some yoga kind of things. Sometimes I go outside and I hit my drum sets. But lately, yeah, just like anything, I get away from my computer for like 10 minutes. So just going outside, hanging out with the chickens, running around the house, doing something crazy, just anything for like the right before the interview is usually what I do. So something physical. Yeah.
Awesome. What else helps you either in preparing or in just getting through any job search or application process or anything like that?
So what helps me get through the application process is that I'm viewing it in batches. So as of right now, I have like 4 interviews that are past the initial stages. So I got overwhelmed already. So I haven't applied to any more jobs since then. So this is like batch number 1. These interviews will all finish up within the first week of May. And if I don't have anything by then, I'm going to start batch number 2 when I start like applying to all these other places. So what has been effective for me is breaking it down into little kind of digestible chunks rather than like one big thing where you go get a job. So that's been helpful. Yeah.
Huh. It's interesting that you described like an actual timeline for your first batch. How did you know that these would wrap up by then? Or did you kind of figure that out as of now because we're like a week and a half away?
I didn't set out to do that from the beginning. Basically what I did was I applied to like 60 places. I got like 11 interview requests. I moved on to like 4 further stage interviews, and then I just got really overwhelmed and I couldn't do more than 4. So I was like, let me just pump the brakes. So I know that they're going to end now just because of how far along I am in the process. But this is something that I learned on the fly. Yeah.
Gotcha. Rock on. Now kind of thinking of the opposite, what things get in your way in the process?
Oh man. I never know how to end the calls. This has been a thing for me for my entire life. This is not a new thing, but it's exacerbated by being laid off and looking for a job. It's kind of like the movie I Love You Man with Paul Rudd. I go, okay, and thanks for talking to you, and okay, have a great day. I don't know when to stop. So what gets in my way is the ending happening and it not being weird. Also, this is something that I've talked to Eben about. I know you share the same sentiment, is that if it's not me as the interviewer, then I'm not running the call. So it's hard to relinquish control and let them run the call. A lot of times at the end, I'll be like, so what are the next steps? Or like something like that. And they'll be like, yeah, well, I was going to say that. So what gets in my way is awkward goodbyes and letting them run the call.
Yeah, that's a big one. I know that Krista, I know, yeah, we had talked about it before because I was having the same issue and I don't remember which one of us came to the other for help and was like, no, I can't really help you. I do the same shit. Yeah, and I have a way of being like, when I feel like I want to let them off the hook because I don't know what I'm going to say next, I'm like, well, I don't want to take up too much of your time and do the like closing. What has that come up for you like in the last week, or have you wiggled out of that, or like what?
Well, no, man. I was talking to a founder on Tuesday, and I was like, "All right, see ya." I just felt like I was like a elementary school kid. Like, all right, I'll see you tomorrow. He waved too. He smiled too, but I was like,
"He waved? Like, I don't know what the etiquette is."
Wave. Yeah. I like that. I just don't like initiating the goodbye when I know I'm not supposed to, but I can't help myself.
Yeah, so I haven't gotten any better.
Yeah. I think with the Zoom thing too, it's hard because like it's easier in many ways because you still get the kind of in-person interaction, but like it's harder at the very end of the call too. Also because when you're leaving the meeting, because it always brings up the other box. So you're like in this awkward moment where you pressed the button but not the second button.
Yes.
Like, do you do anything in that moment? Probably not.
Yeah. Sometimes I try to be the first one to press leave meeting, and other times when somebody else gets me first, I have like a twinge of like insecurity. Like, did I just get left or something? It's so dumb. It's so dumb. Yeah. It's like high school.
Yeah. It's real.
Fair enough. I know we talked about maybe, some awkward goodbyes or things like that, but like, where do you feel like you really mess up? Like, what trips you up the most?
Ooh, silence on a call. So I just did an interview a couple days ago, and he asked me a question that I had never prepared for. And my friend who works at the company actually told me he was going to ask me something different. She was like, he's going to ask you about a time you got negative feedback, and he's going to ask you it 3 times. So I stayed up all night with my fiance prepping for this question. And I'm sure this prep had something to do with my reaction to his actual question he asked me. He didn't ask me about negative feedback. He asked me to tell him about a time where there were multiple possible solutions to a problem and how I picked the one that I ended up picking, and to have me walk him through how I made that decision. So what I did, I said, hold on, I've never heard that before. Let me think about it. And then I started writing. And then I was saying, like, in my head, I'm saying, like, oh, fuck, sorry. I'm saying, oh my gosh. There's a lot of time passing and I'm not saying anything. So I continued to not let myself think by just being quiet and doodling and seeing what I had to say and then picking my options, but like kind of like telling him, like, oh, wow. Yeah, I don't know. Hold on. Let me see here. So I had this kind of like, what gets in my way is when I get thrown a curveball, which always happens, when I just don't take a breath, take my time, tell them, I'm going to take a second to think about that, or even I'm going to actually write out some answers for myself and then pick one. Hold on. It's going to take me a few seconds. So instead of just saying that strongly from the beginning, I kind of like hem and haw. So yeah, that's a big thing that's been getting in my way lately, is when I get thrown off, I kind of let them see me sweat, and I don't like it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, that's good. I mean, it's tough to show kind of confidence all the time and to kind of have that wall up. Sometimes I think that's a little easier to get away with on the phone than it is in a video call. I don't know if you felt that way too. It's like there's trade-offs to both methods. Yeah, would you say that or something else over the last month has been kind of like a low point for you?
Low point. So I've been thinking a lot about all the interviews I've ever failed in my whole life. And there are a few that stick out to me where, like, I thought I did everything right. I went in there, I made them laugh. They were comfortable. I answered their questions. I did my prep, and then I got a no. So whenever I like nail it, I get really scared. So with my top choice company, I talked to their co-founder and I thought I nailed it. And I didn't hear from them for like 7 days. So the low point for me was the weekend, because I talked to him on a Tuesday. I didn't hear back from him until the next Monday. And that weekend, I was literally telling Emily, like my fiance, I was like, I'm out. They hate me. It was terrible. I waved to him at the end. It was so dumb. I can't believe I did that. So the low point for me was doubting myself that happened. And I don't know if it's taking longer because of COVID, but the low point for me has been dealing with the amount of time from the interviews ending to hearing back from them. It seems worse than it ever was for me. And I've been playing a lot of inner gymnastics that are not helping to make that low point. Yeah.
No, it's tough. It's tough because, especially it's like, you don't know if it's just like regular time or COVID time. I think we just have to assume that it's COVID time, right? Mm-hmm. Most of the time. Like, we all have to be patient with ourselves and with the other people in our lives. Your interviewers probably have family too, and other friends to take care of and other stuff going on. Yeah, that's tough. I guess what would you say would be the high point from the last month?
High point. I've never heard that question before. Let me think about that, and let me actually write it down and take a second.
Let's all take a breath. Let's all take a breath.
High point of the last month has been, we've broken the COVID laws like 3 times to hang out with my fiance's parents, and it's always a really fun time. I forget about the virus existing. I forget about the fact that I got laid off, and I don't recommend that for everybody. But those nights where we spend over their house, just the 4 of us, are like these little magical little vacations where like nothing else exists and we're in our own little world. It's by far like the high point. Yeah.
Gavin Newsom, if you're listening, Kevin lives in Florida where there are no rules.
There are no rules. No rules. Yeah. No, that's good. That's really nice. It's nice to kind of remember that family is there. I know. Yeah, I've been kind of FaceTiming with my folks more often, and that's been really nice. Even though it's like charming to laugh at each other and the situation and everything, especially because my mom is still struggling to figure out how to move the phone to landscape mode. So it's always It's fun. But yeah, I definitely talk to them.
Tilt it to the side, Ma. No, the other side.
Yeah.
No,
No,
now you can't. I can't see you now. You
Well,
pointed it away
they're
from
like
me.
360. They're like, okay, now we're back to square one. Okay, great. I did have one more question.
Am I in frame? No, just kidding. Sorry.
No, I did have one last question. Kind of coming back to your low point, where you're really kind of talking about the anxiety of waiting. Is there something that you would like to say now to either your low point self or someone else who's facing some of the same kind of anxiety?
Yeah, it's gonna take like a week, man. Like, just be okay with that, and it has nothing to do with how good you did. Even if you blew their socks off, they're not gonna get back to you the next day. So just count on a week. Count on giving yourself an action item for a week that's not waiting. So just say, I'm gonna reach out with a follow-up email in a week. So you have something to do, and say, Kev, you're not going to worry about it until then. So until that week gets here, go outside, do something else. That's what I'd say. Yeah.
Good.
It's huge. What a difference having a little bit of a chance for perspective makes, right? It's like this, part of what I'm hearing in there is like, this is not forever. This moment you're in is not forever. You have choices. But in that doesn't help. Like when you're there, it's like, no, I don't. Stop. You're making it worse. Stop telling me how to fix myself. I'm like imagining that you arguing with this and probably winning but only for that moment. Then having a different week in a week. Well, cool. All right. Well, kind of on that same note there, Kevin, a hack or pro tip that has changed the course of your search. Like, what do you got for the people?
Okay. So I can actually remember really clearly like the before and after picture kind of scenario happening. I remember I got laid off. I was looking for a job, and I was having a lot of feelings of inertia. Like here I am, like moving towards this thing, and I'm like, oh my God. And it was just really bad. And I kept thinking that I was applying everything I was doing, whether it was applying or interviewing or networking or talking to somebody, I was doing it all to get a job. And it made me feel like I was coming from a place of like deep insecurity and scarcity, basically. And then I made this like mission statement. It was nothing fancy. It just said, you're not doing this to get a job. You're doing this to learn more about the path that is your 5-year plan. So my 5-year plan is to be like this, have a independent, successful life coaching business where I help all different kinds of people. And when I viewed all my interviews and all my applications and all my networking and all my talking to people through the lens of, I'm just doing this to learn because it's getting me closer to what I want to do, that made me feel a lot more empowered. And that made me feel like I was coming from a place of actual abundance when I'm talking to people. So just the shift of making a goal something that you can control fully, that has nothing to do with anybody else saying yes or no to you, accepting or rejecting you, or having to like you, and just saying, I'm doing this for me. And also another pro tip is like, when I get really down, I just pretend I have a job. I don't care how stupid that sounds. When I'm really in the thick of the sadness, I just tell myself, how would you act if you were going to go to work on Monday to a place and they were going to pay you? Okay, great. Act as if that's the case. And I'll just be nicer to my fiance. We'll like be going on walks and I just won't be in my head so much. So a goal you can control, and just pretending when it gets really tough that it's not the way it is. Yeah.
Awesome. With that in mind, Kevin, what are you focusing on next week?
Oh man. I got a final round interview with my top choice company on Tuesday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. So that's definitely big focus on that. And I have my second choice company I'm interviewing with on the 1st. I think that's a Friday. So my 2 focuses are those final round interviews, and that's it. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, actually, no, that's not true. Me and my fiance, we're trying to read more plays together. So Waiting for Godot has been in the wings for a long time, and we're trying to rehearse that play several times. So the focus of my week that's not job search related is running some lines, man.
Yeah.
Back in the actor spirit. So yeah,
that's huge. She's agreed to do that with you. I feel like that's something you've wanted to push her toward, but you're doing it together. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, we're both just kind of we had this moment last week where we're like, man, this is like, what are we going to be able to say that we accomplished at the end of the corona? Like, we just sat around and played Animal Crossing. Is that going to be it? Or are we going to be able to say that we, like, tried this play and showed our parents? So yeah, we're gonna.
Hey, show us too. Make a whole Zoom date out of it.
Oh no, now I'm nervous.
Come on.
There it is, episode 2. Why do you got to give away my life goal, man? The Animal Crossing achievements. It's episode 3 when you interview me. Spoiler alert. Dang. All right, cool. Krista, any other question for Kevin before we attempt whatever's going to happen for this sign-off section?
No, I don't think so. Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool.
So, all right. So we're going to each do this. Kevin, you don't have to go first. You can doodle if you would like before you answer. Let's all share one thing that you're excited about, whether it's job related or not, that you'd like to share with the people. Most likely our spouses that won't be paying attention while we play this for them. And go. So, it could be events, reading resources, or just kind of self-care practices or self-indulgent awesomeness you have. Krista, that means you're first.
Okay. I guess personally, I'm excited that one of my chickens just laid her first egg. Yep, that's right. If you were paying attention, Kevin and I both have chickens. We also have the same initials, fun fact. So we're basically the same person. So yeah, I'm excited about that on a personal level. Professionally, I've had some interesting conversations this week. We'll see how that goes. I'm really mostly excited to see kind of how things go after our launch this week of Effective Immediately, and just kind of see what kind of feedback comes in and how we can be more helpful and more supportive and sort of where that takes us. So that's what I'm excited about.
Yeah, awesome. Good. I'm glad you plugged Effective Immediately. I was gonna do that as well. It'll be linked everywhere. We'll probably, maybe if we get fancy, there will be things coming out of the screen. They're like, click here to give all your money to these 3 people. Something I did, I was in a conversation with folks at Masterclass about a job that they listed and then pulled away, but were gracious enough to just kind of like talk to me about. And they sent me this thing they're doing now, MC Live, that is just like free interviews with some of their instructors. And so it was Neil deGrasse Tyson, and I watched it. I basically just listened to it. His interview with the producer, who produced her name's Mayan. She's awesome. She's got all her like Emmys or whatever in the background. But she's basically just interviewing him, and then it was a live webinar that was free, and so they were taking some questions as well. And I just listened to it on like 2x speed. And anytime I hear him talk, I feel excited about the universe on a micro and a macro level. So I'd highly recommend checking that out. I'm sure it's available online, Googling it. It wasn't like a secret link or anything. Kevin, what do you got?
Oh yeah, mine's gonna be really short and sweet. We play this game at the house now, and I'm really excited. It's a simple, just a paddle game. It's like ping pong with no net. So we're gonna play a lot of that tonight. So that's it. It's something I'm really excited about, an insane amount. I don't know why I'm so excited, but that's mine. Yeah.
Great.
I love it.
I want video. And I want a how-to. I want like teach. I want you to become the coach of Paddle Mania or whatever it's going to be called.
You got it.
All right, well, cool. That's it for us. We thank you for watching again. This is Effective Immediately, episode 1 of our TBD named Inside the Layoff Studio Job Seeker Diaries. I don't know what it's going to be called. Thank you both for taking the leap and taking the risk to do this. For signing off, we've talked about a variety of potential things we would do. And so one of the things that I think we were all excited about was making the guests do it. We didn't decide on what the it is. So for episode 1, Kevin, you have to do it and decide what the it is when you're ready.
Oh my gosh. All right. And that's been Effectively Immediately. At least we have each other. Good night.